as we approach the 2018 elections, they're going to be hotly contested, and nothing should be taken for granted by Republicans, and certainly nothing should be taken for granted by Democrats. They need to also put their best foot forward.
That's Alabama Senator-elect Doug Jones, who will be sworn in this week on the impact of his surprise election on the 2018 midterms. And we're back now with the panel. Bruce, let me ask you, historically, we know what happens in midterms. The president in power often loses seats. That's almost always the way it goes. Who's most likely to win in the midterm elections, and who has what hand?
Well, it's a great question. On the Republican side, there are districts, there's demography and dollars. Thanks to gerrymandering, most Republican districts are very safe Republican. They're generally not a threat of losing to a Democrat. Midterm elections, every time, in 06 it was true, in 94 it was true, in 08 it was true, or it wasn't midterm. But midterm elections are always older, they're always more white, they're always more conservative voters. And Republican Party committees and super PACs have outraised their Democratic counterparts. That said, the single best predictor for a midterm typically is the president's popularity. And if the president's over 60% popularity, as you saw in 2002, Dana, you can gain seats. This president's at 39%. Historically, they would lose 33 seats, which is enough to lose the majority. Similarly, with Democrats, they have a massive enthusiasm advantage. The NBC Wall Street Journal poll said 49% of Democratic and lean Democratic voters are very enthusiastic versus 34% of Republicans. And then the last thing that professionals tend to look at are the so-called generic. Would you rather would you see Republicans or Democrats control Congress? And right now, Democrats, it's a year out, but are sitting on an epic 13-ish point lead in that. History. So which hand would
you rather play with?
Answer honestly.
As a rule, it's more fun playing the insurgent hand anyway. Certainly 2010 and 2014 were fun. As a Republican, I'd probably want to play the insurgent hand this year.
Let me ask you, Mo, if you could look at this graphic here. We have the Senate toss-up seats. These are the ones that everybody's sort of looking at. Nevada, Arizona, Missouri, Minnesota, Indiana, West Virginia, Tennessee, maybe even North Dakota. If you were working or advising Democratic senators in red states, how would you advise them to approach this upcoming election? Because this is where President Trump won bigly.
Yeah. The president's success in a lot of these battleground states was because, and I'm not a fan of the president, but I give him credit for recognizing that we are in a populist age. And so his rhetoric was very populist. I would encourage any Democrat, whether you're in the suburbs or whether you're in one of the states up on that map, to realize that the spectrum has changed, right? That it's not left versus right, it's more up versus down, that there is a disconnect between people and the elites. And so if you can go into these states and talk about the need for people to have a champion in Washington, take Trump out of it for a minute. Yeah, you can go after him, and he's unpopular in every one of those states that you had up there. He's on his popularity is underwater. You can go after him where it makes sense to. But the other side of the equation is to offer them something as an alternative. If that alternative is a champion, a true champion, then I think Democrats are going to be in a very, very good position. I would much rather have the Democratic hand than the Republican hand this time. The president's numbers are underwater. This Congress has not delivered the things that people said that they wanted. They don't like its signature accomplishment. All those things are a nice setup for Democrats. But Democrats have to close the sale. And if they can do that by showing that they will be a champion for people who feel disconnected from the establishment, then I think it's going to be a very good year for Democrats.
Marie, do you think that
the data back Mo up as well? If you take a look in off-year elections, the party out of power has won 110 out of 114 since 1982, 110 out of 114 Senate elections in off-year elections, and the party in power, it's 96%. The party in power is 104 out of 128. That's 80%.
Marie, what about this? He talked about the Democrats having a lot of enthusiasm behind them, especially with a little bit of a turn we saw, at least in Virginia and Alabama. That's not obviously going to make or break the case for 2018, but that suburban women voting for Democrats and a big turnout for African Americans. Do you think that that kind of energy can sustain itself through 2018?
I do. I think that there's a couple places to look. You're right, suburban women and suburban men who are getting frustrated with the Republican-led Congress, with President Trump, also looking. I mean, you see that in Virginia, you see that in Pennsylvania as well. Independents are another place to look. Independents are now increasingly by double digits saying they would rather vote for a generic Democrat than a generic Republican. Republican Party self-identification is at the lowest point since 1991. So all these numbers say that we're going to have a Democratic wave, but Mo is right. Democrats need to close the sale. And I think what the party is looking at doing is finding candidates that fit their districts, not having litmus tests across the board. This is not a national election. This is about district by district. This is about state by state. And the fundraising on a candidate level, Democrats are doing historically well in fundraising at the individual level, not at the party level, which is a challenge for 2020. But in a 2018 election, that's less of a challenge. We'll see if Democrats can close the deal.
Michael, let me ask you about this. So Bill de Blasio is going to be sworn in again as New York City mayor.
As a New Yorker, this depresses me.
I'm a New Yorker now, too, and I was born in Wyoming. So 4 years ago, he was sworn in by Bill Clinton. This week, he'll be sworn in by Bernie Sanders. What does this tell you about the shift in the Democratic Party, and any advantages do you see there for Republicans?
Well, I think at its core, the Democrat Party has a far greater challenge than the Republican Party. The Democrat Party has a huge divide right now from its kind of hashtag left, which cares about an issue matrix that is just gigantically different than the issue matrix of the rest of the country. And they care about climate change, and they care about LGBTQ issues, and that is about half of the Democrat Party right now, versus a still working class part of the Democrat Party that feels and cares about a lot of the same issues. David Winston just did a great report for something called the Voter Study Group looking at this, that cares about jobs, that cares about the fact, as Mo was talking about, that many people in this country feel like our nation's elites have kind of moved on from caring about America and caring about their struggles, and are more kind of cosmopolitan elites who want to be well accepted at Davos. People around the country who feel that Washington is corrupt. The Democrat Party has a divide. I don't know how they're going to bridge it between these two very powerful blocs within it. The Republican Party has the challenge of recognizing that we're not in 1984 again. We have to do elections differently. We have to talk about different issues. We can get there pretty easily on our side, showing how our same conservative principles can work for today the same way they did during Ronald Reagan's time. I don't know how you square the hashtag left and Lena Dunham with the kind of traditional
we have the perfect person to ask right here on the panel. Mo, can the Democrats win back working class Democrats, sort of the voters that had voted for Obama but decided to vote for President Trump this past time around?
I think they can, and I think, look, both parties struggled with it in 2016. Both parties, Donald Trump defeated the Republican Party before he defeated the Democratic Party. Both parties became very disconnected from the working class, and so I think Democrats, though, where I would disagree with Michael, is that there's this huge fissure within the Democratic Party. I think the Democratic Party, the differences between these two factions, if you can call them that, are really more of a matter of degree than a matter of direction. They do still fight for sort of the same thing, how they get there and what tone. There is one faction that's angrier than the other. But you compare that to the fissures within the Republican Party, I'd still rather be trying to shepherd the cats in the Democratic Party than herd the cats in the Republican Party, where they seem to be all over the map right now.
There's a great opportunity on the legislative agenda to expose this fissure within the Republican Party, and that's on the infrastructure bill. You can throw as much money at our nation's infrastructure as you want. With all of the regulatory hurdles to actually doing infrastructure projects, it's impossible to get that money out the door.
But it is possible that President Trump could help on that front from the regulatory standpoint.
That's exactly what they should do, is that this infrastructure bill needs to be about actually making it possible to do infrastructure projects. And if you do that, you drive a wedge right in between the labor unions and the workers of the Democrat Party and the environmentalists in the Democrat Party. It's going to be a huge opportunity to expose that divide in their party.
There are also 36 governor's races in 2018. We focus a lot on Congress, but if we talk about what actually impacts voting, redistricting will happen again in 2020. And who wins governor's mansions in 2018? 36 governor's races, and Democrats have nowhere to go but up there.
So, Bruce, if you've been a donor to either party, should you turn off your phone for the next few months?
If you haven't turned off your phone as a donor, something's wrong with you.